In this video, we are going to learn how self-criticism can be used in a constructive, healthy way to enable you, empower you, elevate you, equip you to reach your goals faster and more effectively. My name is Vanessa Bonnie, and I am obsessed with all things business transformation and personal transformation. My intent and desire with these videos and this podcast, or wherever you're viewing, hearing, reading this content, is that it will help transform your life. Like everything that I have done in my life, what I know to be true is that knowledge does not create change unless I'm getting tongue-tied. Unless it is applied. Okay. So take out your notebooks, write down the actions, so just write down the insights and commit to taking action today. Some kind of action, whatever that action is going to be helpful to you. For those that are returning to this channel and those that know me already, welcome. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time and your energy again with me today. And again, my hope is to share with you some of the wisdom that I have learned in my life that I've gained from different places and people and things and my own lived experience in the hope that it will better your life as well. If your life can improve by 1%, that is absolutely amazing. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about self-criticism. So those that know me a little bit more intimately, closely, will know that I have been in the process of writing a fucking book. I say a fucking book because I find writing a book a very painful process. This is my second book. The first book was called Colorful: How Women of Color Can Become Powerful Leaders and Transform the World. And I wanted it to be full of research and science and action-based and very sort of like left-brainy. And what eventuated was a book that was very motivational, a book where the number one feedback that I've gotten from that book is, I want to take action. Reading your words, it's like you're talking to me and I want to take action. And if there's a word for my life, it would be taking action. And if there's anything that I could be self-critical of myself, it is a lack of taking action. And I know that to be true because I do criticize myself, and I do that in a healthy and constructive way. And it can seem very contrary to myself, the other parts of myself, because there is this other part of me that is overly self-critical to the point where it puts me in fight or freeze mode, usually freeze mode, but where I then procrastinate on things. So that is why we have been writing the book. We wrote the book in, this time it wasn't as many words. The first book that I wrote was like 100, the first draft was like 110,000 words. We cut it down to, by we, I mean, primarily my editor, cut it down to 70,000 words. This time I wrote 35,000 words because I realized that when you edit a book, it is a painful process, and I get so sick of hearing my voice and reading my words and hearing my voice through reading my words. And I just don't want to look at the book afterwards. And so that insight has helped me make a decision around, as well as input from a mentor, around writing this time around 25 to 35 words. So I went a bit over and I wrote 35,000 words, which is cool, which is okay. I call those words my shitty first draft because I'm not aiming for perfection. I'm not aiming for amazingness. I'm not aiming for a New York Times bestseller, even though I would absolutely love that and love to achieve that one day. I am aiming for 35,000 shitty first words. And that is exactly what I did. And the real criticism is actually not going to be self-criticism. It's actually going to come from an editor. So I'm going to engage an editor, which is the next step in the process, to do structural and line editing, not just copy. So structural line editing is when they really pull apart the text. They'll put comments in there. They'll delete chapters or recommend to delete chapters. They'll use track changes, of course. And they will really look at the book from an angle of, what are you trying to say? How are you trying to say that? And is that going to connect and be relevant for your audience? And I love that. I absolutely love that. And I'm very blessed to be a person that is, and grateful to be a person that is very open to criticism. At the same point, at the same time, I am fully aware that as someone that grew up being criticized for the color of my skin, for the way that I talked, for how loud my voice was, to how I showed up, how I dressed up. And a lot of that criticism wasn't even people shouting at me or telling me in a really negative way. I mean, that's even something as simple as, or seemingly simple as, a friend telling me that maybe I would want to contemplate changing my clothes prior to going to a program that teaches us and shows us how to be speakers or run a speaking practice, and that I might want to contemplate in changing my clothes so that people in the room would take me more seriously and have a highly likelihood of giving me a gig, because we know that, you know, speakers network with other speakers. If I'm sick, or if I'm not able to make a gig, or if that topic is not within my lane, I will refer other people in my network. And so self-criticism happens to us both in a direct way and a non-direct way, in a way with the intent to be constructive and be serving to us, and in a way that is actually not. The intent is to pull us down and to tear us down and to dismiss us, demonize us, and all the D's. We're all the D's today. And so we need to be very, very conscious about criticism and the role that it plays in our life and how we internalize that. In inclusion talk or terminology, we call it internalized oppression. So when you have been criticized, and criticism as a form of oppression, your life and based on your identity and who you are as a person and how you show up. So for me, it was my hand gestures, it was the volume of my voice, it was me taking up space, energetically taking space in a room. When people would criticize me, it was about my identity and how I showed up in the world. And not that how I showed it in the world that was negative. It was actually, they felt threatened by that, and people seek to oppress that which they feel threatened. When they feel like something is more powerful than them, they seek, when something is a threat, right? You do not feel fearful of things that are of the same level. Spiders generally, I'm assuming, I have never been in the mind of a spider, but I'm assuming spiders are not fearful of other spiders. They might be fearful of, I don't know, what eats spiders? A bird, maybe? I don't know. Something that eats spiders, an animal that eats spiders. They will be fearful of something else that views them as something else. So something else that is more powerful than them. And I know that dynamic happens with humans as well. So when we feel threatened by the existence of another human, when our status, our relevancy, our position, our power in society, our position, even ourselves, how we show up in the world, when we feel threatened by that, our automatic response, almost like an animalistic response, a human response, is to oppress in order to eliminate that view of threat. When we look at it humanistically, we are all humans on this planet trying to do life. End of story, full stop. So we need to know that because of what we've experienced in life through oppression and through the way that we brought up, we can internalize self-criticism and speak to ourselves in a very, very critical way, which then has us, procrastinating on our goals, not showing up in spaces, not speaking up, toning ourselves down, diminishing ourselves, and really, really dismissing our successes, our accolades, our greatness, our strengths, and really, really diminishing ourselves in spaces so that we are not perceived as a threat. And we also do that to ourselves. So if we feel ourselves coming up into a space or a state of greatness, we pull ourselves back. Who are you to think that? Who are you to be that? People like you do not become that person. People like you do not speak on those stages. People like you, people don't want to hear from people like you. You can't do that. You can't speak. You get your words all jumbled up. You say words in reverse. You tell a story for 10 hours, but it needs to be 2-3 minutes. Like, who the fuck are you to even think that, want that, desire that? And it's too hard. It's impossible. It's You can't do that, you know, and we criticize ourselves in a really, really harmful way. On the other side, what I know to be true is that self-criticism, when used gently with a bucket load of self-compassion, is a really, really effective tool. So when I was writing my book, I actually wrote a whole book on self-criticism because I really believe like there is something there to be explored. Absolutely. I need more self-compassion in my life. And I do need to speak to myself with more self-compassion. And I also know that when we take that to an extreme, we give ourselves excuses to be lazy. We give ourselves excuses to speak in a shitty way to another human being. We give ourselves excuses to litter on this beautiful planet, to behave in a way that is harmful or hurtful and not us standing in the highest integrity and version of ourselves. And so what I know to be true in either, I seem to be using that phrase a lot in today's video, in either sides of these two dynamics, self-criticism and self-compassion, is that if we use either one in an extreme, it is not helpful. It can actually be quite harmful to ourselves, and it can be harmful to others as well. So what I uncovered in my writing of this chapter, as I was, picking it apart and pulling it apart, is that self-criticism is really needed. So this is a discovery that I've learned working with leadership teams in corporate organizations. There have been a couple of leaders that I've met who think that they know everything, are everything. They've done all the leadership courses. They've done all the stuff. They've read all the books. There's nothing for them to learn. They don't need to learn how to be a better people leader. They don't need to learn how to be a better CEO. They're a great fucking human being. And that is a very dangerous place to be. Because criticism in general, when it's a healthy kind, when it's a kind with the intent of bettering a person to stand in the highest integrity and highest version of themselves, when it's with the intent to be delivered, when it's delivered with love, kindness, respect, and compassion to another individual, when it is done in a way that is helping a person step into the direction of a bigger version of themselves, of a bigger leadership of themselves, then that is self-criticism or criticism that is very helpful to an individual. And the biggest insight that came from me writing this chapter along those lines was that self-criticism also helps us to keep us in check in terms of our own ethics and morals as well. So I don't know about you, but when we go to grocery stores, a lot of the grocery stores have now replaced checkouts, where there's someone checking out your items and tallying everything up. And I just had a memory. Do you remember back in the day when they would actually press the buttons and be like $2.50 plus $5.29 plus? I kind of miss that. I kind of miss those days of like those big chunky buttons of like, Anyway, side note, park that over here. We know that there are now a lot of self-service or self-checkout. So we're actually zapping the things through and checking things out ourselves and paying the money for our groceries. And there have been a moment of truth and honesty right here. There have been a couple of moments when I have not taken everything out of my bag. And then just before I've paid, I have realized that there is something in my shopping bag that I have not checked out. And there is that little thing inside of me to say, it's only a tomato. It's only a lemon. It's only $1.50. Coles and Woolworths, they're big, greedy, because I've had friends that have been consultants there where people have been like, let's smash all the supplies and squeeze them and at all costs, and really quite ruthless environments that on the outside can show that they care about human beings. And the inside, it could be a different story. Very, very, can be, not saying that they are, can be profit at all costs sort of mentality and leadership mentality and cultures. And so there's this, little voice inside my head of like, they're greedy, huge corporation. They've got millions and gazillions of dollars coming out of their asses. What are they going to do with $1.50 to, lemon? You could get that lemon for free. You could save $1.50. No one's going to notice. No one's going to know. And if they do, you could just be like, oh, I didn't realize that. Oops. You can go back and pay for it. And in that moment, a little feeling has arisen over the top of that and being like, oh, that's not honest, Winifred. That's not honest. And if you are wanting people to be honest to you, you've got to be honest with others, even if they don't know if you're being honest. If you want others to be honest to you, then be an honest person. Now, I will admit, there have been times when I have not listened to that self-critical with self-compassion voice. And there are moments when I've been like, fuck you, Coles, and walked out with that lemon. Not a lot of times. And this seems to happen to me all the time. I can be a little bit in the clouds when I'm grocery shopping. And just before I've checked out, when I always go back and check my bag, I'm like, no. If you want people to be honest, be an honest person. So I check out that damn lemon and I pay the total and I be honest. So self-criticism is a reflective tool that can help us keep us in line to the values and the beliefs that we have, keep us in line to living a life and running a business or working in a career that is ethical and moral. And I absolutely understand that for some people, the consequences of living in line with one's ethics and one's morals, and to live a life of the best, living in life and working in life with the best ethics and morals can mean negative consequences to individuals. And I absolutely understand that. For example, speaking up about discrimination, there can be negative consequences as a result of that. And so I absolutely understand people's choices in not engaging in a behavior. And I also know that sometimes when those little feelings of guilt and shame can be emotional data for us to look at ourselves and say what's actually going on. So that is a practice that I am wanting to develop, and not wanting, that I am working on developing within myself, is to look at my emotions as data and say, what are my emotions telling me right now in this moment? So even feelings of shame and guilt, I no longer allow it to become something that is all encompassing and overwhelming. I now notice it straight away and say, for example, in a grocery shopping scenario, and say, that guilt is saying to me, that's not the right thing to do. And you know that. So if you choose to do that, then how are you going to be honest to other people? And if you are not honest to yourself, that's going to come and bite you on the ass, right? So we need to pay attention and be careful, because your values is to be honest. And when you were dishonest with, even if the only person that knew was myself, I'm being dishonest with myself. I'm in relationship with myself. When I'm being dishonest with myself, I don't trust myself. When I don't trust myself, I don't have confidence in me. I don't have confidence that I will be able to do the things that I say that I will do. Look at being confident in another person. When you are confident in a family member, when you're confident in someone else at work or in your business or in your life, you trust them. We are not confidence and trust are not two things that operate in different buckets in silos. They operate in tangent and in coordination with each other. So when we are honest with ourselves, what we're essentially, and living in accordance in a way that is honest to ourselves, we are saying to ourselves, you are someone to be trusted. Whenever you are someone to be trusted. And when I trust myself, I can be confident in myself. I've been confident in myself to deliver on the values and the beliefs and the ethics and the morals that I prioritize and I value in my life. So self-criticism is not about poo-pooing and shitting all over yourself. Self-criticism is about looking at yourself through the lens of constructive self-criticism. Where am I out of alignment to my values and goals? Where I'm living out of alignment to my values and beliefs? Where I'm living out of alignment to living ethically and morally in the highest possible version of myself? Where can I be better at? This is not about being a good or bad person. There was a TED Talk about it. I think it has a couple million gazillion views on it, about our obsession about being a good person. So criticism is not about labeling ourselves as good or bad. So criticism is about looking at how we can be better. How can we pull our actions, behaviors, and decisions into alignment with who we truly believe we are and the life that we say that we want to live as well. So self-criticism is something that needs to be done with self-compassion. And self-criticism, when used as a constructive self-reflection tool, is an act of self-compassion. Because when we are compassion is, I feel your pain and what action can we take? Empathy is, I feel your pain and I feel that pain too. I feel really, really shitty too. Whereas self-compassion is, I see your pain, I hear your pain, not taking on that pain. And if I said I feel your pain under compassion, I apologize for that. And it asks a question, what action can I do to best support you? So when it comes to self-criticism is, I see that feeling of guilt or fear or shame or resentment. What is that emotion telling me? What data is it telling me right now? What data is it giving me right now? And through the eyes of self-compassion, from the intent of self-compassion, how can I be better in this space? So I hope that was really helpful to you. The biggest takeaway from this is that too much, overly engaging and almost indulging in self-compassion can take us down the road of self-centeredness and self-pity and self. And too much self-centeredness, too much self-criticism can also take you down the road of self-centeredness, self-pity, and self. And so what we need to do is actually combine those two together, self-compassion and self-criticism. Self-criticism from the lens of being utilized as a self-reflection tool. And know that self-criticism is also about helping us and supporting ourselves to live in alignment to our values and to live an ethically and moral life to the best of our ability. And know that as imperfect people living in an imperfect world, that journey is going to be constantly be in evolution. It's going to be constantly evolving. And so as we constantly evolve, we're going to get new insights about that's not so great. We can actually do it this way, and it can be a much better way to serve ourselves and to serve others and to serve the world as well. So as we get new knowledge and more knowledge on how to live an ethical life, how to run an ethical business, how to run and how to lead ethically and morally, and really dive into our morals and ethics and question them and evolve them, we get new insights. And so when we live out of alignment with those evolved ethics and morals and values and beliefs, self-criticism used as a self-reflection tool, not as a tool of oppression, as a self-reflection tool, which is self-compassion, when utilized correctly, can help us progress and elevate our life. It is a tool in your toolkit to be utilized. So I hope that video was really helpful to you, or this podcast was really helpful to you. If you are watching this on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe, hit the bell notification, and please get behind and support your BIPOC thought leaders and content creators. If you're listening to this on a podcast or on any other platform, please forward this piece of content to someone else, one other person that you think might really be really helped by this piece of information. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. I really hope this video was of service to you. As I learn and grow in myself, my intent is to help and share that with you. and to document my life in that I finished my second book. So yeah, you go me. And now we start the real hard work, which is editing that book. So have a wonderful rest of the week. Stay true to you. Continue to show up for you so that you can continue to show up for others. And know that the world is full of endless possibilities. It is limitless. And know that we have to challenge a lot of those narratives out there that seek to oppress us. And we do that when we level up and show up in new and profound ways. Take care. Much love to you. And I can't wait to see you next Monday.